endures. It does not deny pain, it denies helplessness. Final reflection. The Stoics never promised happiness. They promised freedom. Freedom from fear. Freedom from panic. Freedom from a mind at war with reality. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. In an age of anxiety, Stoicism is not ancient. It is necessary. Stand firm. Train the mind. Let the world do what it will. If this helped steady your mind, this channel exists for you. Here, we don't chase motivation, we train clarity. Subscribe and return whenever the world feels too loud.
Ever notice how some people walk into a space and everything just shifts? Not because they're the loudest or the flashiest, but because there's something different about their energy. They're not performing, they're not seeking attention, yet everyone seems drawn to them like gravity. What's their secret? It's not charisma tricks or social hacks. It's something the ancient Stoics understood centuries ago, a quality they called inner command. While the world rewards those who shout, true magnetism belongs to those who've mastered the art of stillness. Today, we're breaking down 6 ancient principles that create this invisible pull, not so you can manipulate attention, but so you can become genuinely captivating by simply being more yourself. Principle 1. The art of presence. We live in the age of partial attention. Everyone's half listening while thinking about their next Instagram story. But there's incredible power in being the person who's actually here. The core teaching. When Epictetus said we're given 2 ears and 1 mouth, he wasn't just being clever. He understood that attention is the rarest gift you can give another human being. Real listening isn't waiting for your turn to talk. It's creating space where someone feels genuinely witnessed. Why it creates magnetism. Think about the last time someone made you feel truly heard. They weren't checking their phone. They weren't planning their response. Their eyes said, "Right now, you're what matters most to me." That feeling is rare enough to be unforgettable. Most people are so starved for genuine attention that when they find someone who offers it, they never want to let go. Your focused presence tells others, you're not just noise to me, you're worth understanding.
The psychological shift. Silence isn't emptiness, it's strength. When you resist the urge to fill every gap with words, you're exercising self-mastery. You're saying, I don't need to prove my intelligence or win this conversation. I'm secure enough to just listen. That security radiates. People sense it instinctively. Practical application. Start small. In your next conversation, practice the pause. Before responding, take 1 full breath. Notice the impulse to interrupt, then let it pass. Watch their body language, their tone shifts, the words they emphasize. Try this meditation.
Spend 5 minutes daily simply observing your own thoughts without judgment. The better you become at listening to yourself, the more naturally you'll listen to others with compassion. The deeper truth. Charismatic speakers may entertain, but attentive listeners transform. When you master presence, you don't just become someone people enjoy, you become someone they trust with their truth. Principle 2. Emotional equilibrium. There's a particular kind of person who makes you feel safe without saying a word. While chaos swirls around them, they remain anchored. That unshakable calm isn't weakness, it's mastery. Marcus Aurelius wrote that tranquility comes from living in harmony with what you can control. The Stoics knew a secret. You can't control the storm, but you can absolutely control whether you're swept away by it. The water metaphor. Picture your mind as a lake. When the surface is still, you see perfect clarity, the sky, the trees, the truth. But when winds of anxiety and fear ripple through, the reflection becomes distorted. Clarity requires stillness. Why it creates magnetism. People unconsciously seek emotional shelter. When you can maintain your center while others are losing their own, you become a refuge. They don't even know why they're drawn to you. They just know being near you makes the world feel less overwhelming. Peace isn't something you're born with. It's a skill you sharpen daily.
Before reacting to stress, pause and ask, can I control this? If yes, act deliberately. If no, release it consciously. This simple filter prevents 90% of unnecessary suffering and makes you unmovable. The modern world rewards speed, but the powerful move with intention. That deliberate composure creates an aura that separates you from the reactive masses. The authority of calm. Peaceful people don't need to display strength. Their composure proves it. They're not swayed by flattery or criticism because they understand that external validation is just weather passing through. Practical application. Daily practice. 5 minutes of sitting in complete silence. No phone, no music, no podcasts. Just you and the quiet. Notice the discomfort. Sit with it anyway. Over time, that external stillness builds internal calm. When you embody peace, people feel it in your handshake, your eye contact, your unhurried movements. That's magnetic on a primal level. Principle 3. Intention communication. Introduction. Some people speak once and the room remembers. Others talk constantly and nobody recalls a word. The difference isn't volume, it's deliberateness. The core teaching. Epictetus taught, either remain silent or say something better than silence. Every word is a choice, a small commitment of your integrity. The wise understand this, so they speak rarely but meaningfully.
Why empty talk fails. When you speak just to fill space or prove your intelligence, people sense the insecurity underneath. But when you choose your words carefully, others lean in because they know you're not wasting their time. The power of restraint. Silence can communicate more than 1,000 explanations. When you understand when to speak and when to hold back, you demonstrate self-control, the foundation of respect. The modern context. In a world where everyone broadcasts their every thought, your measured responses become striking. Your pauses create anticipation. Your words land with impact because they're chosen, not automatic. Notice the people you admire most. They rarely dominate conversations, but when they speak, you remember what they said days later. That's intentional communication. Self-talk matters. How you speak to yourself shapes how you speak to the world. Harsh internal dialogue creates harsh external communication. Gentle self-talk cultivates compassionate, confident expression. Practical application. Before speaking, ask, does this need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said now? This triple filter eliminates 80% of unnecessary noise. Practice alignment. Let your actions prove your words. When what you do matches what you say, trust becomes automatic. That integrity makes every word you speak more valuable. The lasting impact. Persuasive speakers impress momentarily. Purposeful speakers leave marks that last. When your words come from inner clarity rather than ego, they resonate at a frequency people can't ignore.
Principle 4. Grace under pressure. Everyone faces storms. The question is, who do you become when the winds hit? Your response to adversity reveals more about you than 1,000 perfect days ever could. The core teaching. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The obstacle is the way." Stoics didn't avoid difficulty. They used it as raw material for growth. Fire doesn't weaken iron, it forges it into something stronger. True magnetism in crisis. Real attraction isn't the smile you wear during easy times. It's the composure you maintain when everything is falling apart. The person who stays gentle when their heart is breaking, who remains steady when others panic, that's someone who commands silent admiration. Reframing adversity. Don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask, "What is this revealing to me?" That single shift transforms you from victim to student. And someone who learns from pain can never be permanently defeated. The concept of amor fati. The Stoics practiced amor fati, love of fate. They didn't just tolerate hardship, they embraced it as necessary for their becoming. When you can see challenges as catalysts rather than curses, you access a resilience most people never find. Silent strength. People with real strength never announce it. Their calm during chaos speaks louder than any declaration. They don't complain, blame, or seek sympathy. They simply stand up, dust off, and continue. That quiet durability is magnetic in a way flashy confidence never achieves. Practical application.
When facing difficulty, pause and journal. What strength is this developing? What weakness is this exposing? How am I different on the other side? This practice turns every setback into a stepping stone. The deeper recognition. Others may not know what you've endured, but they'll sense the depth in your eyes, the steadiness in your voice, the earned confidence in how you carry yourself. Survivors who smile have a gravity that success alone can't create.
Principle 5. Authentic alignment. The fastest way to lose your natural magnetism is trying to please everyone. When you constantly adjust yourself to fit others' expectations, you slowly disappear. Here's the paradox. The more you chase approval, the more forgettable you become. But when you live according to your own values, even your critics respect you. The core teaching. Marcus Aurelius said, "If your actions are right, don't concern yourself with opinions." Public opinion shifts like wind. Integrity is the compass that keeps you steady, regardless of which way the crowd is blowing. What is integrity really? Integrity means having the courage to live truthfully, even when it's uncomfortable. It's saying no to what violates your values, even if it disappoints people. It's honesty, even when silence would be easier. The beautiful part, integrity doesn't need to be declared. It shows in your eyes, your decisions, how you treat people when nobody's watching. The approval trap. Maybe you've been there, changing your opinions, your style, your personality, just to be accepted. But that borrowed approval never brings peace because it depends on something you can't control. When your emotional state is dictated by others' perceptions, you'll never feel enough. The freedom of consistency. Magnetic people aren't loved by everyone. They're respected for their consistency. They don't shapeshift for praise. They don't compromise their core just to feel safe. They do what's right even when they stand alone. That unwavering authenticity radiates a power that even disagreement can't diminish.
The Stoic insight. Seneca wrote, "No person can live happily who serves the opinions of others." When you stop chasing validation, you start finding yourself. And when you find yourself, you become irreplaceable. The cost and the reward. Living authentically isn't always comfortable. You'll feel misunderstood sometimes. People might call you difficult. But temporary isolation is infinitely better than permanent self-betrayal. Those who leave because you're being real were never your people anyway. Those who stay, they're there for who you actually are, not the performance you've been giving. Practical application. Write your non-negotiables. What values will you never compromise? When will you always speak up? What boundaries are sacred? Review this list when you feel pressure to conform. the quiet magnetism. Integrity carries a silent authority. It doesn't need to be advertised or defended. It makes people trust you at a level that words can't reach. You become the light that doesn't need to announce it's shining. Others just naturally move toward you. Principle 6. Progress over perfection. Introduction. We're obsessed with flawlessness. We want to speak without stumbling, act without error, live without failure. But the chase for perfection is actually what keeps us stuck. Perfection is fiction. Growth is the only truth. The core teaching. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you stumble, stand and continue. That itself is victory." Stoics never expected perfection. They expected continuous improvement. They knew mistakes aren't the end, they're the curriculum. Why perfection repels. Here's something strange. People trying hardest to appear flawless often create distance. But those who admit their works in progress, who share their unfinished journey, they inspire us because they're real.
They remind us we don't need to be error-free to be valuable. We just need the courage to keep learning. The magnetism of authenticity. True attraction doesn't come from doing everything right. It comes from never quitting on your growth. Someone genuinely working on themselves radiates humility, persistence, and honesty. They don't boast or compete. They just quietly become better. That makes them unforgettable. The growth mindset in practice. Think about someone patient with their own learning curve. They don't punish themselves for mistakes. They extract lessons. They don't crumble after failure. They ask, "What's this teaching me?" Every setback becomes refinement. Every scar becomes proof of a courageously lived life. The Stoic view. Stoics taught that fulfillment doesn't come from perfection, but from rational living and character development. When you focus on growth, fear of mistakes dissolves. You become more open, more flexible, more gentle with yourself. The daily question. Don't ask, "Am I perfect yet?" Ask, "Am I better than yesterday?" Small improvements compound. A little more patience today, a little more discipline tomorrow, a little more trust in the process. Change doesn't happen in dramatic leaps. It happens in steady, authentic steps. The connection factor. When you stop pretending to be perfect, you become genuine. And that's when natural attraction happens, because everyone's exhausted from performing, from wearing the masks society hands them. When you dare to be honestly imperfect, you give others permission to do the same. That creates the deepest form of human connection. Practical application. Keep a growth journal. Each week, note, what did I learn? Where did I struggle? How am I different? This practice turns life into a laboratory instead of a test.
Conclusion. The integration.
bringing it together. Looking back, you'll see the true magnetism never came from appearance, status, or clever words. It came from the peace you cultivated, the self-mastery you developed, and the authenticity you protected. These 6 principles, deep presence, emotional equilibrium, intentional speech, grace under pressure, authentic alignment, and committed growth, don't just make you magnetic to others, they help you rediscover yourself. The ultimate realization. When you truly master yourself, you stop needing to prove anything. You stop chasing approval, because real worth isn't found in others' eyes. It's found in the respect you hold for yourself. A person with inner strength isn't always right. They're calm enough to recognize when they're wrong, correct course, and keep growing. The Stoic reminder. Marcus Aurelius knew, peace comes only from being true to yourself. When you live this way, magnetism isn't something you create, it's the natural result of how you exist. Others feel your strength in your presence, your listening, the quiet consistency of your actions. The journey continues. This isn't about reaching a destination. It's about walking the path with steady eyes, an open heart, and a learning spirit. Life doesn't require perfection, only progress. And here's what Stoic philosophy keeps teaching us. You can't control outcomes, but you can always control your effort. Focus on the journey, not the finish line. The final truth. In that journey of growth, you don't just become stronger, you become magnetic in a way external beauty could never match. Not phrases that reveal these patterns, and more importantly, how to break free from them. If you are ready to strengthen your mind, let's begin. Phrase number 1. It's not my fault. The first trap is blame. When things go wrong, the trained mind looks everywhere but inward. The economy, the boss, other people, always something external. But here's what blame really means. You're admitting the world controls you. Epictetus, who went from slave to philosopher, taught a simple truth. Some things are in your control, others aren't. The weak waste energy trying to control the uncontrollable. The strong focus exclusively on what they can change. Picture 2 ship captains in a storm. One shakes his fist at the sky, cursing the weather. The other quietly adjusts the sails and grips the wheel. The storm doesn't care about your complaints, it only responds to your actions. Yes, the situation might not be your fault, but your response, that's always your responsibility. Stop pointing fingers, start building solutions.
They made me angry. This phrase hands your emotional control to everyone around you. Seneca called anger temporary madness, not strength, but a collapse of reason. Here's a thought experiment. Imagine someone bumps into you hard in a crowd. You spin around, furious. Then you notice they're blind, using a cane. Suddenly, your anger evaporates. What changed? The bump was identical, only your interpretation changed. This proves something crucial. People don't make you angry, your judgments do. The disciplined mind is like a fortress. Insults bounce off,
provocations fail to penetrate. If you're easily provoked, you're easily controlled. Guard your mind. The third trap is living entirely in the future. When I get promoted, when I buy that house, when I retire. This guarantees misery today while chasing a tomorrow that never arrives. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, had everything, yet he wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." There's an old story about a businessman who sees a fisherman relaxing with his family at midday. "Why aren't you out fishing more?" he asks. "You could build a fleet, start a company, then retire and enjoy your family." The fisherman smiles. "What do you think I'm doing right now?" Don't wait for permission to live. If you can't find peace today, wealth won't create it tomorrow. Work with purpose, but don't postpone your life.
Why is this happening to me? When hardship strikes, the weak feel targeted. This isn't fair. Why me? But Stoics practice amor fati, love of fate, not just accepting what happens, but embracing it. Think of it this way. If a coach only gives you weak opponents, you never improve. The tough opponent who throws you around, that's who makes you stronger. Life is that coach. Marcus Aurelius thanked the gods for his difficulties because they tested his character. A weak flame gets extinguished by the wind. A strong one burns brighter. Stop asking, "Why me?" Start asking, "What can I learn?" I already know that. The moment you think you know everything, growth stops. Epictetus would kick arrogant students out of his classroom. He said, "It's impossible to learn what you think you already know." There's a Zen story about this. A scholar visits a master to learn about Zen. As the master pours tea, he fills the cup and keeps pouring. Tea spills everywhere. The scholar protests. The master replies, "Like this cup, you're full of your own opinions. How can I show you wisdom unless you first empty your cup?" The proud guard their ignorance. The wise cultivate the mind of a student. Be willing to look foolish today to become wise tomorrow. I don't have time. I'm too busy to read, exercise, or think. Usually, this is a lie. What you really mean is, it's not a priority. You have time to scroll for 2 hours, but not meditate for 10 minutes? Seneca wrote that life is long enough if you know how to use it. People guard their money fiercely, but let everyone steal their time. You get 86,400 seconds every day. The foolish let them drain away, distracted. The wise ruthlessly eliminate the non-essential. Saying you're too busy to improve yourself is like being too busy driving to stop for gas. Eventually, you'll break down. What will people think? The final cage is living for an audience that isn't watching. Marcus Aurelius asked, "Why do we value others' opinions of us more than our own?" If an actor spends the whole play watching the audience for applause, he'll forget his lines and ruin the performance. Stop being the actor watching the crowd. Stop changing yourself to fit in. Your character, who you actually are, matters more than your reputation. If you need others' approval to act, you give them the power to destroy you with a single criticism. Break the chains. Let them think what they want. These 7 phrases are walls of a prison you built yourself, but the door is unlocked. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about seeing clearly and acting with courage. Catch yourself when these phrases arise. Replace them with responsibility, gratitude, and action. The choice is yours. Choose wisely. Listen closely. Right now, in this very moment, there's a battle happening. Not on a battlefield, not in the streets, but inside you. It's the war between who you are and who you react to be, between the person you want to become and the emotions that hijack your decisions. Someone cuts you off in traffic, your blood boils. A text goes unanswered, your mind spirals. A comment online, suddenly your entire day shifts. Sound familiar? Here's what most people won't tell you. You're not weak for feeling this way. You're human. But being human doesn't mean being controlled. The ancient philosophers understood something we've forgotten. Emotions are visitors, not owners. They knock on your door, but you decide whether to let them run your house. Today, I'm breaking down 7 powerful principles that will help you reclaim control, not by suppressing what you feel, but by mastering how you respond. If you've ever wondered why some people seem unshakable while you're drowning in overthinking, this is for you. Before we dive in, drop a comment right now. I choose my response. Say it, mean it. Let's begin. Principle 1. Separate the event from the story. Here's a radical idea. Most of your suffering isn't caused by what happens to you. It's caused by the story you tell yourself about what happened. Someone doesn't reply to your message. That's the event. But your mind creates a story. They don't care about me. I'm being ignored. I said something wrong. None of that is fact. It's interpretation. Ancient wisdom teaches us this. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies your power. So, here's the practice. When something triggers you, pause. Ask yourself 3 questions. What actually happened? Just the facts, no story. What story am I adding to this? Is this story definitely true? Most of the time, you'll realize you're reacting to a narrative you created, not reality. A criticism at work isn't a death sentence to your career. It's feedback. A friend's silence isn't rejection. It's just silence. When you stop adding drama to events, events stop having power over you. Try this today.
The next time you feel triggered, write down the bare facts versus your interpretation. You'll be shocked at the difference.
Principle 2. Master the pause. Speed kills. Not just on the highway, but in your emotional life. Think about your biggest regrets. I bet most of them happened because you reacted too fast. You sent that message. You said those words. You made that decision while your emotions were in the driver's seat. Here's a truth that will change your life. You don't owe anyone an immediate response. Not to anger, not to anxiety, not to that text message designed to push your buttons. The most powerful people in the world move slowly when it comes to decisions. They think fast, but they respond slow. Practice this. When you feel intense emotion rising, count to 10. Sounds simple, almost childish, but in those 10 seconds, you give your rational brain time to catch up to your emotional brain. Better yet, implement the 24-hour rule for big reactions. If something makes you want to quit your job, end a relationship, or send a heated email, wait 24 hours. I promise you, most things that feel urgent in the moment lose their power by tomorrow. Your emotional speed is making you weak. Slow down to strengthen up. Comment below, I choose delay over destruction.
Principle 3. Stop defending your worth. You know what's exhausting? Constantly explaining yourself to people who've already made up their minds about you. Here's a hard truth. Some people will misunderstand you no matter how clearly you speak. Some will judge you no matter how perfectly you perform. Some will doubt you no matter how much you prove. And that's okay. Your worth is not up for debate. It's not a courtroom where you need to present evidence. It's a fact that exists independent of other people's opinions. The moment you stop needing to justify yourself to everyone is the moment you become free. This doesn't mean you're arrogant or closed to feedback. It means you're selective about whose opinions you invest in. Ask yourself, is this person genuinely trying to understand me, or are they just looking for ammunition? If it's the latter, save your breath. Your energy is too valuable to waste on people who've already decided who you are. Let your life be your argument. Let your results speak louder than your words. Let your peace be so evident that explanations become unnecessary. Stop shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's narrow understanding of who you should be. The right people will see you. The wrong people won't, no matter what you say. Principle 4. Build emotional boundaries. Here's something nobody teaches you. You need walls. Not to keep people out, but to keep your peace in. Most people walk through life emotionally naked. Every comment bruises them. Every look cuts them.
Every slight destroys them. That's not sensitivity, that's lack of boundaries. An emotional boundary means you decide what gets access to your mental space. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every criticism deserves your energy. Not every conflict deserves your participation. Think of your mind like a VIP section. Not everyone gets in. You're the bouncer. Here's how to practice this. When someone says something designed to hurt you, visualize it hitting an invisible shield. It doesn't penetrate. It doesn't enter. It just bounces off. This isn't about becoming cold or heartless. It's about protecting your center. You can be kind without being available to chaos. You can be open without being vulnerable to attacks. You can be loving without being a doormat. Start saying these phrases. That's your perspective, not my reality. I hear you, but I disagree. You're entitled to your opinion. Then move on. Don't engage in emotional warfare. Just acknowledge and exit. Your peace is sacred ground. Guard it like your life depends on it, because your quality of life does.
Principle 5. Expect resistance. Here's a perspective: being surprised when people disappoint you. I know that sounds cynical, but hear me out. When you expect perfection from people, you set yourself up for constant letdown. The ancient thinkers would start their day with a mental exercise. Today, I will encounter ungrateful people. I will meet those who lie, manipulate, or disrespect me. Why? Because expecting it removes the sting when it happens. You're not being pessimistic, you're being prepared. Think of it like this. A soldier doesn't go to war hoping everyone will be nice. They train for combat. When combat comes, they're ready, not shocked. This doesn't mean you become paranoid or distrustful. It means you stop being naive about human nature. People will let you down. They'll break promises. They'll ghost you. They'll use you. Not because you're worthless, but because people are flawed, including you. When you accept this reality, you stop taking it personally. You stop spiraling. You just think, yep, there it is, and keep moving. Prepare for resistance, and you'll never be broken by it. Comment: I expect the storm, so I'm never surprised by rain. Principle 6. Train your thinking, not just your feelings. Everyone wants to feel better. That's why we binge-watch shows, scroll endlessly, or seek quick dopamine hits. But here's the problem. Feelings are unreliable guides. You can feel anxious about something that will never happen. You can feel confident about something that's doomed to fail. You can feel unloved when you're actually surrounded by care. Feelings lie. So instead of asking, how can I feel better? Ask, how can I think more clearly? Your thoughts create your feelings, not the other way around. Change the thought, and the feeling shifts. Example: you think, nobody respects me. You feel worthless. Revised thought: some people don't see my value, and that's their loss. You feel grounded.
Same situation, different interpretation, different emotional result. This is mental discipline. It's not about toxic positivity or pretending problems don't exist. It's about not letting distorted thinking rule your emotions. When anxiety hits, ask, what thought is creating this feeling? Is it based on facts or fears? Most of the time, it's fears, and once you expose them, they lose their grip. Strengthen your mind, and your emotions will follow.
Principle 7. Review your reactions like athletes watch game tape. They study every move, every mistake, every missed opportunity. Why? To improve. You need to do the same for emotional reactions. Every time you lose control, whether it's snapping at someone, spiraling into anxiety, or shutting down, that's data. Don't just feel bad about it. Study it. Ask yourself, triggered me? What belief was underneath that trigger? How could I respond differently next time? Keep a journal. Track your patterns. You'll start to notice certain people always trigger you the same way. Certain environments drain your peace. Certain thoughts always lead to the same spiral. Once you see the pattern, you can interrupt it. This is how you evolve, not by being perfect, but by being aware. Every reaction is feedback. Every breakdown is a breakthrough waiting to happen if you're willing to learn from it. Emotional mastery isn't about never falling. It's about falling forward, learning, and getting strong. So here's what we've covered. Separate events from the stories you tell. Master the pause before you react. Stop defending your worth to everyone. Build emotional boundaries that protect your peace. Expect resistance so you're never shaken by it. Train your thinking, not just your feelings. Review every reaction to learn and grow. These aren't quick fixes. They're practices, habits, skills that build over time. But if you commit to them, you'll become someone different. Someone who doesn't collapse under pressure. Someone who stays calm when others lose control. Someone who feels deeply but responds wisely. That's true power. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself. The world will keep throwing chaos at you, but you'll walk through it untouched. If this resonated with you, hit that like button, drop a comment with your biggest takeaway, and subscribe because we're building a community of people who refuse to be controlled by their emotions. Your final affirmation, type it in the comments. My calm is my strength. Now go out there and show the world what mastery looks like. Epictetus was born a slave in ancient Rome. He had no control over his life, his body, or his freedom. Yet he discovered a rule so powerful that it made him freer than the emperors who owned him. He said, "Some things are within our control, and some things are not." Most people spend their entire lives fighting this truth, and it destroys them. Here's what most people do. They waste energy trying to control things they can't control. They try to control what people think of them, how others treat them, whether they get the job, the promotion, the relationship, the weather, the traffic, the economy.
other people's opinions, decisions, and actions. And when they can't control these things, they suffer. They get anxious, frustrated, angry, depressed. Epictetus saw this pattern everywhere, people making themselves miserable over things completely outside their power. He was beaten by his master so badly that he was left permanently disabled. His leg was broken and never healed properly. But here's what's shocking. Epictetus didn't become bitter. He didn't spend his life angry at his master. He didn't obsess over the injustice. Why? Because he understood the dichotomy of control. He couldn't control what his master did to him, but he could control how he responded. He could control his thoughts, his character, his philosophy. Most people get this backwards. They ignore what they can control and obsess over what they can't. They can't control if someone ghosts them, but they can control how many times they try. They can't control the outcome, but they can control the effort. Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." But most people do the opposite. They neglect what's in their power and rage against what isn't.
Epictetus taught that there are only a few things you truly control. What you control: your thoughts, your reactions, your effort, your character, your choices, your attitude. What you don't control: other people's actions, the past, the future, your reputation, results and outcomes, external events. That's it. The list of what you control is shockingly small. Most people never sit down and actually separate these two lists, so they live in constant confusion, trying to control things that were never theirs to control in the first place. Here's Epictetus's exercise. Before you stress about anything, ask yourself one question. Is this within my control? If yes, take action. If no, let it go. Someone cuts you off in traffic? Not in your control. Let it go. You feel disrespected at work. The disrespect isn't in your control, but your response is. Control that. Your business idea fails? The outcome wasn't fully in your control, but the effort you put in next time is. Focus there. This single question will save you years of wasted mental energy. Epictetus spent decades as a slave with zero control over his external circumstances, but he had complete control over his internal state, and that made him free. He said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Point 2. Stop seeking external validation. This is where most people fail hard. They base their happiness, their worth, their peace on things outside their control. Do people like me? Do they respect me? Do they agree with me? Am I successful in their eyes? Epictetus would say, you just handed your freedom to other people. He wrote, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Translation: stop caring what people think. It's not in your control anyway. Someone thinks you're arrogant? Not your problem. Someone thinks you're not good enough? Also not your problem. Someone doesn't appreciate your effort? Still not your problem. Your only job is to control what you can: your effort, your intentions, your character. Epictetus lived this. As a former slave turned philosopher, people constantly judged him. Some dismissed him, some mocked him, some worshipped him. He ignored all of it. He said, "I must die. Must I then die lamenting? I must be put in chains. Must I then also lament? I must go into exile. Does any man then hinder me from going with smiles and cheerfulness and contentment?" Notice what he's saying. External circumstances don't determine your internal state. You do. But here's the trap most people fall into. They think, I'll be happy when I get the promotion, when I find the relationship, when people respect me, when I achieve the goal.
all of those things are outside your full control. So you're literally saying, I'll be happy when something I can't control happens. That's insane. Epictetus's rule: base your happiness only on what you control. Your effort, your character, your choices. Everything else, accept it as it comes. Point 3. Practice premeditated adversity. Here's Epictetus's most powerful technique that almost nobody uses. He taught his students to mentally rehearse things going wrong before they happen. He called it preparing for obstacles. Modern Stoics call it negative visualization. Here's how it works. Before any important event, imagine the worst-case scenario. Not to be pessimistic, but to prepare yourself mentally. Going into a job interview, imagine you don't get it. How will you handle it? What will you do next? Starting a business? Imagine it fails. What's your backup plan? How will you respond? Confessing feelings to someone? Imagine they say no. Will you survive? Of course you will. By mentally rehearsing the worst case, you remove its power over you. Because here's what Epictetus discovered. Most suffering comes from resistance to reality. We suffer when we think this shouldn't be happening. But if you've already accepted that it could happen and you've prepared for it, then when it does happen, you're ready. Epictetus was beaten as a slave. He couldn't prevent it, but by accepting that it was possible, he didn't add mental suffering on top of physical pain. He controlled what he could: his mind, his character, his choice. And that's the secret. You can't control whether bad things happen, but you can control whether they destroy your peace. Modern life works the same way. You can't control if you get laid off, but you can control having savings and skills. You can't control if someone betrays you, but you can control not letting it make you bitter. You can't control failure, but you can control trying again. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Most people never prepare, so when life hits them, they fall apart. Stoics prepare, so when life hits them, they stay standing. Here's a real-life example. Let me tell you about James Stockdale. He was a U.S. Navy pilot shot down over Vietnam in 1965. He spent 7 years as a prisoner of war, tortured, isolated, no idea if he'd ever be released. But before he was captured, he studied Epictetus. He'd read the Enchiridion, Epictetus's handbook. And in that prison camp, when he had absolutely no control over his circumstances, he remembered Epictetus's rule. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. He couldn't control being a prisoner, the torture, when or if he'd be freed, how the guards treated him. But he could control his attitude, his leadership of other prisoners, his refusal to break mentally, his choice to resist propaganda. Stockdale later said, "I never lost faith in the end of the story. I never doubted that I would get out and prevail in the end." But here's the key. He didn't waste energy on things he couldn't control. He didn't obsess over "why me" or "this isn't fair." He focused entirely on what he could control: his mind, his character, his response. And he survived. Not just survived, he came out mentally stronger than many of his fellow prisoners who didn't have that philosophy. When he was finally released after 7 years, reporters asked him how he made it. He said, "I was better at suffering than they were." That's the power of Epictetus's rule. When you know what you control and what you don't, nothing can break you. Here's what you're doing right now. Not tomorrow, right now. Step 1. Think of one thing that's stressing you out right now. Just one. Step 2. Ask Epictetus's question. Is this within my control? Be honest, really honest. If the answer is no,
If it's someone else's decision, an outcome you can't guarantee, something in the past, then your job is to let it go. Not ignore it, let it go. Accept that you can't control it. Step 3, ask the follow-up question, what can I control in this situation? Maybe you can't control if you get the job, but you can control preparing well for the interview. Maybe you can't control if someone forgives you, but you can control apologizing sincerely. Maybe you can't control the outcome, but you can control the effort. Step 4, take one action today on what you can control, just one small step. Epictetus was a slave with a broken leg, and he found keep suffering over things they can't control. You don't have to be most people. Remember what Epictetus said, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. So stop fighting what you can't control and start mastering what you can. That's true freedom.
Your world is crumbling. You just lost your job. Your relationship ended. Your health is failing. And you're standing there, paralyzed, watching everything fall apart. But what if I told you that a man who lived 2,000 years ago already figured out exactly how to handle this moment? A man who was exiled, lost his son, and watched Rome burn, yet remained unshaken. His name was Seneca, and by the end of this video, you'll know his secret. Lucius Annaeus Seneca wasn't some monk living in a monastery. He was a Roman senator, advisor to Emperor Nero, one of the richest men in Rome. He had everything, and he lost it all. Exiled, betrayed, eventually forced to take his own life by the very emperor he mentored. But here's what's insane. In his darkest moments, Seneca wrote letters that would change philosophy forever. Letters about one thing: how to stay calm when your life is falling apart. So let's break down his 3-step system that actually works. Step 1. Sounds dark, but it's genius. Expect disaster. Seneca called this premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Every morning, he'd imagine the worst possible things that could happen that day. Not to be pessimistic, but to be prepared. Listen to what he wrote. The man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive. Think about it. Why does losing your job destroy you? Because you never thought it would happen. Why does a breakup shatter you? Because you believed it would last forever. You were living in a fantasy. Seneca said, not to live in fear, but to remove the shock. When you've already imagined losing everything, you can't be ambushed by loss. You're ready. You're calm. You're in control. Here's what you do today. Take 5 minutes. Imagine the worst-case scenario in your current situation. Really feel it. Then ask yourself, could I survive this? The answer is almost always yes. And now you're free. Step 2. Control what you can, release what you can't. This is where most people lose their minds. They stress about things completely outside their control. Seneca was brutal about this. He said we suffer more in... You've survived 100% of your worst days so far. This will pass too. So do the good times. So stop clinging. Stop trying to freeze frame your life. Flow with it. Accept it. Dance with it. When you truly understand that everything is temporary, you stop being a victim of circumstance. You become the eye of the storm, calm, centered, unshakable. So, let's bring this together. Life is falling apart right now? Good. You're exactly where Seneca was. And here's what he'd tell you. First, expect it. You should have seen this coming. Not because you're psychic, but because chaos is normal. Disaster is part of life. Stop being surprised. Second, control what you can. Your effort, your response, your next step. Ignore the rest. It's noise. Third, remember it's temporary. This storm will pass. You will rebuild. You will be stronger. But here's what nobody tells you. The calm you're searching for, it's not waiting on the other side of your problems. It's available right now.
in this moment, in your breath, in your choice to accept what is. Seneca didn't find peace when his problems ended. He found peace while standing in the fire. That's the secret. The calm isn't out there, it's in here. Seneca, a Stoic philosopher, a statesman, and one of the most profound teachers of human life in the Roman Empire. His letters to Lucilius are more than guidance. They are windows into a mind grappling with life, death, fear, and hope. Among these letters, Letter 5 stands out. Written over 2,000 years ago, it contains lessons that resonate with anyone struggling to live a balanced life. Seneca asks, how should a philosopher live? Not in isolation, betrayal, corruption, and human weakness firsthand. Letter 5 is written to Lucilius, a young friend and aspiring philosopher. It is practical, personal, and deeply human. Seneca blends moral guidance with anecdotes, philosophical reasoning, and warnings drawn from real life. He is concerned about the mistakes new philosophers make, seeking recognition, adopting extreme lifestyles, or focusing on appearance instead of character. This letter is timeless because it addresses the tension between living wisely and being part of society, a challenge every human faces, even today. Seneca begins by warning against performative philosophy. Some people dress poorly, sleep on hard floors, and adopt uncomfortable habits, not out of necessity, but to signal virtue. He writes, "You are not a philosopher if your wisdom is only for show." The philosopher's task is inward cultivation, not outward display. A person may appear humble, virtuous, or wise, but without internal transformation, these are empty gestures. Seneca emphasizes, philosophy must be genuine, not theatrical. Virtue is practical, not performative. A philosopher should act naturally, not artificially. Historical note: in Rome, young nobles often mimicked ascetics to appear virtuous. Seneca's guidance warns against the dangers of social posturing, a lesson still relevant in modern culture. Modern application. Today, many people showcase virtue or hardship online to gain approval or admiration. Seneca's advice reminds us that true wisdom is experienced quietly, not broadcasted.
Seneca introduces the Stoic principle of balance, the middle path. Philosophy encourages simplicity but not self-punishment. It rejects extremes of indulgence and deprivation. He famously writes, "Use fine cups as though they were clay, and clay as though it were fine." This teaches us to avoid attachment to wealth or status, treat pleasures and possessions with indifference, maintain moderation in all things. Seneca warns against over-identifying with luxury or discomfort. Both extremes distract from virtue. Illustrative story: a young Roman noble sleeps on a hard floor to prove humility. His body suffers, his mind is distracted, and yet he calls himself virtuous. Seneca would argue, true virtue requires practical, balanced living, not performative suffering. Seneca emphasizes that philosophy is social. It is not a retreat into isolation. A philosopher should live among people, not apart. Philosophy is not only about self-perfection, but about helping others. Extreme asceticism that alienates others defeats philosophy itself. He writes, "Let your philosophy be visible in your actions, not in your strangeness." Philosophy should make you humane, not peculiar. It should allow you to guide, influence, and support others. Example from Rome: senators, magistrates, and philosophers who isolated themselves or adopted bizarre behaviors were often ignored, while those who lived virtuously in public influenced the society around them. Modern application: In business, politics, and social life, integrity and quiet competence earn respect more than flashy displays of virtue.
One of the deepest insights in Letter 5 is the link between fear and hope. Seneca writes, "Cease to hope, and you will cease to fear." Fear and hope are two sides of the same coin. Both come from projecting the mind into the future. Anticipation of danger creates fear. Anticipation of pleasure creates hope. Both pull us away from the present. Seneca argues that the freedom from fear and hope comes from rational acceptance of life's uncertainty. Example: a leader dreading a political crisis is chained by fear. A philosopher, anchored in reason, can act calmly and wisely. Modern tie-in. Stoicism here foreshadows mindfulness and cognitive therapy. Focus on the present, detach from imagined outcomes, and find inner peace. Seneca's conclusion is simple yet profound. The present moment is the only thing we truly possess. The past is memory. The future is imagination. Only the present can be fully experienced. By living fully in the present, we reduce anxiety, find freedom from worry, and align our actions with virtue. This is the ultimate Stoic lesson. Life is not about performance, wealth, or extreme austerity. It's about living consciously, wisely, and humanely. How can we apply Letter 5 today? Avoid performative virtue. Focus on your own growth, not public validation. Practice moderation. Balance comfort and simplicity. Avoid extremes. Engage socially. Use your philosophy to help others. Don't isolate yourself. Detach from fear and hope. Free your mind from imagined suffering or desire. Live in the present. Focus on now, the only real moment. We see these principles echoed in modern psychology, leadership, and personal growth. Seneca's advice is timeless because it addresses human nature itself. Seneca Letter 5 is more than guidance. It is a manual for living. Philosophy is quiet, not flashy. Simplicity is balanced, not extreme. Virtue is lived, not performed. Fear and hope are chains, and presence is freedom. If you take one lesson today, let it be this: live consciously, live humbly, live wisely, and let philosophy guide every step. Stay tuned for the next letter, where Seneca explores generosity, friendship, and the responsibilities of the wise.
Seneca wrote this 2,000 years ago. While we wait for life to begin, life passes us by. He warned that procrastination isn't just about delaying tasks, it's about delaying your entire life. And most people don't realize it until it's too late. Here's what most people think procrastination is: putting off homework